My name's Colin Ledbetter, and this is the Built Different podcast. In studio with me today, I got Corey. Corey is the kind of the brains behind this whole podcast, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Brains is a very kind thing for you to say. I started Punchline Productions with a friend of mine, Sam, and we got introduced to each other. And while we work on building this up and getting more and more people in, I thought it would be fun to do an episode like a Mythbusters. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I think I realized is maybe we should pull our phones out to Google if we need to some of these things. But I've got some questions here that I asked some friends, and I thought might be interesting for some of the viewers and listeners to find out if these things are real or not. Let's kind of a Mythbusters episode. One easy one. Do all police officers in fact love donuts?
I would say most people like donuts, but yes, I would say most police officers do like donuts.
So by proxy,
yes,
everybody likes donuts.
Yes, coffee and donuts. It's a big thing.
Yeah. Oh, is there places where you guys can get free donuts and coffee?
I'm sure there is.
Don't you guys have a deal with QT?
We didn't have a Quick Trip where I was, but yes, I think there is a deal on the south side of St. Louis with Quick Trip. I think some officers are able to. The department tells you not to take free stuff, obviously, but I do think that is a thing. Yep.
So I know for a fact, because I found out on accident, that Mom's Deli on the hill also gives free sandwiches and food to police officers.
Really?
There was an on-duty police officer there one day when I was getting my food, and I said, put his on my tab. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no, I can't. And I was like, no, it's fine. And the one behind the desk was like, he's free anyway because he's a police officer. And I said, well, in that case, put mine on his tab. So there are places that do that. And so you're not supposed to take free stuff, but do people tend to want to give you guys stuff because of...
I think so. Like, we had a couple gas stations where I worked at that would do that kind of stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of restaurants per se. Yeah. A few gas stations and stuff like that, definitely. I think for one, they like seeing officers around and doing stuff like that. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's not a bribe, but it's
not at all.
But it just.
And I think coffee is like the least you can do, because it used to be like every business you walk into. I went to a detail shop today, and free coffee. Mm-hmm. Right. So like I think that used to be a standardized thing. Like when you patronize a business, you get coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to give a shout out to that detail shop too, because it is. It's the detail shop STL, but I'm looking for the address. Oh, you know what? I have the address here. So you can book online with the detail shop, but the address, they did a phenomenal job. My truck looks better than the day I got it. It's 11719 Baptist Church Road.
Go check it out.
Go check it out for sure. They did an awesome job up there. But free coffee when you go in. Yeah. That's how you keep customers. It's a loss leader.
Absolutely. And I think coffee just, you going in there just helps the conversation flow too. If you're going to talk to someone or something. I work at a car dealership now in Vandalia, Illinois, and, we have free coffee there. So I think it's definitely.
Is Vandalia named after the onion or vice versa? Or not at all?
I don't know if there's any relation or not. I know there's a bunch of stuff about Abraham Lincoln because he was around the Vandalia, because Vandalia used to be the capital of Illinois way back when.
Is there a statue over there of him?
There is.
Like sitting? It's near a dentistry school or something? Is there a dentistry school over there? I might be getting my locations mixed up.
No. But I think we do have there's a statue of him downtown, him sitting on a park bench.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. In like a little not quite a square, but kind of a town square area.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I remember that as a kid, now that you said that. When you said that, I instantly thought about it, because there was a mock cabin or a replica cabin at one point that was supposedly that cabin he lived in, because he wasn't born there or died there or anything, but he lived there for a small period of time.
He was there for a little bit, right? And it was the capital, and yeah.
St. Charles was actually the first capital of Missouri. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. St. Charles, Missouri was the first capital before Jeff City. So,
The more you know.
Yeah, more myth busting here. Big one that I always used to get told when I was little is turn the dome light off. We're going to get pulled over. If you have the dome light on, you'll get pulled over.
That's a no. But, and it could lead to more. I mean, so obviously if you're driving in the dark, your light comes on and they can see you reaching for your phone or something, that's distracted driving. Obviously you're going to get pulled over for that. So that kind of stuff, like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, because when I was little, it wasn't like you were reaching for your cell phone.
Yeah. Yep.
This was the 80s.
Yep. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously an officer could use that as probable cause for a stop too. I mean, it's not like you're getting a ticket for it, but it's an investigative stop.
Oh, okay.
So, like if you're reaching around looking for whatever, it could be an investigative stop, something like that.
I'm glad you said that because this leads me to some things I've heard throughout my days, knowing other officers. There are things that you guys are trained to look for. One of the things that I used to hear that was a target, so to speak, profiling, if you will, but we don't call it that, right? What do you call it?
I would say
On the
like,
force.
I don't know. You really just.
You don't have to say anything that'll get you in trouble.
I don't really know like what we would necessarily call it like.
Because there's things that they train you to look for.
Right. Like if we saw a car driving past, we'd be like, oh, that's a good car. That's a good car stop. That kind of stuff.
Like a padiddle?
Yeah. Like.
Did you ever know what a padiddle is?
I
don't think your generation calls it that. Car with one headlight. So back in the day, if you saw a padiddle, you'd be like, padiddle, and you punch your buddy, kind of like a slug bug.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So like that might be something. But it would be a number of different things. Like, you know, you see nowadays, and this is anywhere, this is across the board, even in a small town where I live, you know, tinted windows, he's got a busted headlight, and, you know, he's got his windows cracked just a little bit. I mean, that's...
Now, windows cracked despite the weather?
Yeah, I would say despite the weather. I mean, if yes and no. I mean, it could be anything. And like I said, if he's got a front headlight out, there you go. There's a stop. But...
Now, windows cracked versus windows down, is that a thing?
Not necessarily. I wouldn't think so. 9 times out of 10, if you're going to light a joint, you know, you're just going to crack the window. But like I said, nowadays, like, it's not even really a thing, like, to pull someone over for weed. It's just not. Everyone smokes weed. So.
But DUIs, now I know like back in the day, drinking and driving, one of the techniques to keep yourself focused or awake or whatever was really windows down.
That was,
So it might be a good indication of like, they're up to something, right?
Could, yeah.
If your windows are down, especially like after a certain time of night.
And I didn't necessarily dig into that kind of stuff as much working in the city, you know, like maybe South Cities type of stuff. But yeah, we didn't really focus on drinking and driving as much on the north side just because there was just a multitude of other things that were going on that was much more dangerous than a guy driving down the road drunk. Now, if a guy's swerving in front of me, obviously I'm going to pull him over and figure something else out with him. But yeah, so.
Other one that I used to hear is ball cap. If there's multiple people in a car with ball cap on, that's a target car.
Yep, hiding faces, anything like that. I saw a lot in my career. Masks were a big thing. They would have them pulled over kind of like a ball cap, but it was just odd, you know, like they're just trying to hide their face.
But how did that go during the pandemic? Because now, like,
yeah, exactly.
Now
so
people are wearing masks.
That was a big thing. So now, even in the inner city, a lot of people like to still wear masks, and they'll kind of like put them around their chin, and then, you know, the cops come by, they pull them up a little bit. It's just kind of a thing now. So after the pandemic, masks kind of became a thing, and people do wear them a lot. So surgical masks, anything like that.
Well, that's pretty wild. So one that somebody just asked us out there that I had heard before also, is it illegal to drive barefoot?
It is not. I actually did my homework on that one. It is not. It is actually legal to drive barefooted. So I'm not sure how that really got started. I guess maybe the only thing I could think of is someone was like, hey, you know, it should be illegal because maybe traction or something, because you get traction from the bottom of the soles of your shoes, maybe. I don't know.
I feel like I got better traction barefoot.
Barefoot, exactly. I feel like I would too, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it might be just like an old wives' tale thing.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather always used to tell us to wear socks around the house when I was a little kid, and because we were going to catch a cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know for a fact as an adult that you do not catch a cold through your feet.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like the whole don't drive without your shoes on is kind of like some husband got mad at his wife because her feet stink.
I like
and
how
he
you,
doesn't want to listen to it.
I like how you categorize it as the husband's angry at the wife.
Yeah, well, it's because something I would do. My wife likes to drive with her shoes off, so.
Yeah. That's the one I didn't think of. We might have to Google this one. We might have to go to the Google. Driving with a foot out the window, unless you already know. Because you're talking about husband wife thing, and I've seen a lot of passenger princesses with their feet out the passenger window.
I don't know that one. I'm going to need to go to the Google. I have seen that multiple times. I've never stopped someone for it, though.
Well, then maybe it's not. I mean, if you're not stopping people. How would you even Google that, I guess? Is it illegal to drive with your feet out the window? That might be misconstrued, though. Because I know it... you can't hang out a sunroof while driving.
Right. Whether it be your left foot or your right foot, putting your feet on the dashboard or out your window will always be dangerous, but is not necessarily illegal. Now, I've never pulled someone over for it, but, if I'm on a car stop and I see someone with their feet up, because I have seen it, when you get in a wreck, that the first thing that happens, that airbag comes out, and it's going to shove your feet right through your face.
Your knee's going to go through your face.
And it's going to look bad.
Yeah.
I've seen accidents where that happened. But yeah, it's not illegal according to Google. So definitely, I guess I could see it with, a lot of laws get made from things that have happened.
Sure.
So like
that's why things are different from the 80s to now, because
exactly. And I've seen accidents where people have gotten
sandwiched
because they had their feet up on the dash. It's a real thing. And it destroyed their legs. I mean, they're probably in wheelchairs now. I don't know, but
yeah.
It pretty much broke every bone they had in their legs. So
that's pretty wild. So when you say that too, I always think about like growing up in the 80s, we had very little restrictions. Like caves weren't fenced in. You could go explore caves. Slides were made of metal. Everything on the playground was dangerous. But then you started seeing signs in the 90s. And when you say that, like the laws are made because of things that have happened.
Yeah.
When you see signs sometimes that seem so obvious. I never thought about it until I was older, and I'm like, that's up here because somebody did that.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's one that I think is particularly funny on electrical fences. Sometimes you'll see like a stick figure and he'll be peeing onto the fence. Like, don't pee on an electrical fence.
Yeah. It's so funny you said that. So my my wife's grandfather was in the hospital this past week. Yeah. And I went to the bathroom.
Oh, no, he didn't pee on the electrical fence.
No, he did not. He was good from that. I went to the bathroom, and, what do you do when you're a guy and you go to the bathroom? You look at all the signs and stuff, because obviously there's signs in the bathroom. And I looked to my left, and there's a sign that says, "Please do not stick your hand in the toilet." And I'm like, that's an odd thing. Like, someone has actually stuck their hand in the toilet.
And got it stuck.
And sometimes in the hospitals, they have, like, the metal around down there at the bottom. If you've ever seen in the hospital toilet, they have, like, I don't know what it's for. But someone has stuck their hand down there, and they say, on the poster, it says, "Do not stick your hand in the toilet. There's sharp metal at the bottom of it." So someone is...
It's got like a collapsible thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's probably for collecting stool specimens.
Yeah, it probably is.
There's probably like a switch.
Yep.
So that the liquid goes away, but the stool...
That makes sense. Yep.
I just thought of that, and I'm not a doctor, but maybe that it's logical as
hell,
right?
Definitely sounds like what it could be.
Yeah, because I don't know any other way you're collecting that.
But it blew my mind that someone reached in the... I would never do that, I guess, but...
Yeah, I'm not reaching in the toilet. I saw a video once of a girl who dropped her phone in a porta potty at a concert, a music festival or something, and she reached in to get it. See, and there's like so many like different things that you could... Yeah. Like, and you could even like, if you just... That type of situation, if you just stop, take a step back, and you're like, okay, maybe I could step out of this porta potty, go find a trash bag. Some sort of tool.
Yeah. But nope.
Something to help you.
But nowadays, we got to have our phones, so people just do that kind of stuff.
Can you get in trouble for calling the police for non-police related issues?
Yes, you can. Like false 911 calls and stuff. Especially Now there's different circumstances.
Yeah, because what if I think I should have?
Yeah, exactly. But if it was like a malicious, like, oh hey, let's be
distract
funny,
the cop.
Yeah, and definitely, and it's actually become a thing now, like swatting incidents and stuff like that. People will. I've even seen it, like, I haven't seen it personally, but like on the news and stuff where kids
calling
will be
in bomb threats.
Kids will be like playing online, like Call of Duty or something, and call it on the other player. So then they'll show up at their house, and to distract the other player from playing.
Yeah.
Like,
heck of a way to distract somebody.
And
you're taking those assets off the streets where they need to be.
Yep. So yes, it is illegal. Obviously there would be enough burden of proof to do something with that, but yeah, it would definitely, if it came down to it, would be.
But like if an old lady calls because her cat's missing.
Oh no. I mean, obviously, yeah, there's different circumstances, but no, that wouldn't be anything that we would pursue.
Have you ever been on a call? Mm-hmm. Well, I should say, I'm almost sure you have. What was one of the most outrageous calls you went to, in the sense of, because there's a couple follow-ups to this, in the sense of like, this is ridiculous. And I'll give you an example that I'm thinking of in my brain. Mm-hmm. It was on an episode of Cops, and some woman called the police officer because the drug dealer that she bought drugs from gave her drywall instead of crack or coke or something. And so she called the cops and said, I got robbed. And so they get there and they're taking a report. He's like, what do you mean you got robbed? She's like, I gave this guy $20 for rock and he gave me drywall. And the cop's like, well, what do you want me to do here?
Yes, I have been on a few of those calls. One that came like right away. I was actually out of school. I'm not gonna throw out names or anything, but there was a officer in need of aid call, and we went to this, in that type of situation, a lot of officers go, usually everyone from the city if they can, if it's that serious, because normally officers will get there and be like, hey, we need more cars, and it just keeps going until we stop. Well, it was out of school, and I keep hearing, like, we were a long ways out, so we just started heading that way, and I just keep hearing, like, people say, hey, we need more cars. I'm like, it's a school, like, it's kids, like, what are we doing? And so we get there, and it was just utter chaos. Kids are fighting everywhere. They're all out of their classrooms. This is a big school. And so come to find out, like, I didn't find out for a couple days, but come to find out, it was literally just two kids fighting over a girl. And somehow that just erupted the school into utter chaos. Where it just took
frenzy.
I mean, there was multiple EMS units, fire units there to take care of these kids that were all beat up and stuff. And like, I would say there was easily 30 some cop cars out in the streets out there. Like,
so a one-on-one fight turned into multiple people fighting.
Yeah. Yep. Just that quick. So
testosterone that goes through you when you're a teenage boy, I tell you.
Yeah. It's obviously can do a lot. The other one I can think of, I'm trying to think, let's see. I've seen a few where people will, they'll try to report their car stolen because their boyfriend or someone took off and they're mad at their boyfriend and stuff like that. I've seen multitude of them. That always happens. Trying to think of something else.
Any kids ever call the cops on their parents for doing
yes,
just
I've
regular parent stuff?
Yes. Yep. They try to call, their kids will get a hold of 911. They'll say, hey, my mom's been beating on me. We go there, have to do a report. The saddest part about that is by law, we then have to, no matter what we find, we still have to notify DCFS. So then they're going to conduct their own investigation. And that's it. And that kind of gets into like the gray area of like, all because that kid at an adolescent stage has gotten mad at their parents. And so now all these people are involved and parents are probably embarrassed. But yeah, I have seen that too. Just
from like a general spanking? And the kid gets upset or something?
Just a general
spanking.
Have
you seen, like, took away my PlayStation?
Yep. The two that I can think of, one, he was not allowed to go to a basketball game with his friends. And then the other one was just a spanking, and the kid was probably 8 or 9, and she's like, I haven't spanked him in years. But he came home, and he was running around with his friends at night, and he came home, and I just swapped him. And I said, sounded like you did the right thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, those are the two instances I can think of where the kids then called 911 and said that their mom was beating on them or being unfair and locking them in their room. So.
Right. Just doing normal parent stuff. What about, so that leads me to the next thing, because I don't think there's many things on this planet more despicable than beating up on a lady, but has there been domestic dispute calls that you've been on for things that they shouldn't have been called? Like,
yes.
Like maybe a wife breaks a husband's TV, or a husband takes the keys from her car or something. What, like.
Yeah, I've been on a fair amount of those. 9 times out of 10, it always comes down to someone's mad at someone for doing something. Someone stepped out on the other one, or what have you. There's always a root source of why they're pushing so hard to get something done. It's never like as clear as what the 911 tape's like, because in a lot of those domestic situations, it's funny because as soon as one partner starts calling, the other one's calling. So then you got these 2 911 calls coming in, and it sounds like someone's dying.
Right.
Oh, he's doing this, or he's holding me down, and blah, 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 blah. And then you get there, and they're both on opposite sides of the house, and we're like, okay, was this necessary? Like, I just had to drive lights and sirens here. I could have, finished my lunch or something before I came here. But, yeah, those happen all the time, too. It's kind of crazy.
I had a situation like that happen, actually, sort of. So I'm driving down Limburg, southbound, between certainly between Olive and Manchester. And I live on Manchester, in that region. And I'm behind this car, and they're really kind of swerving around. Years ago, I probably would have never called for something like this. But now at the time, my son was driving on these same roads. Yeah. He's still driving on the roads, but he's away at college now. So I called dispatch. And said, hey, I got this driver's pretty erratic. They're en route where I'm going anyway, so I'm staying behind them. I'm doing the speed limit. But they're all over the place. And they're like, okay. So we turned left on to Manchester, eastbound at this point, so going down towards the city. And I followed them all the way up to Brentwood, from Limburg to Brentwood. So that's probably still only 2 miles. Yeah. But during that time period, while I'm on the phone, they get into the left-hand turn lane at a light, and then they'll have their blinker on and everything, and then they get out, and they go back straight. And then they're doing all this stuff, and so at some point, it's like they're evading me. So we get on to Brentwood, make a left, and I'm like, okay. And then I hear the lady, we're talking about different stuff, and I hear the lady go, pull into the QT, there's an officer that'll meet you there. And I said, well, if I pull in, I'm going to lose her. And she goes, no, that was our dispatch talking to someone else. And I go, oh. And she goes, you can disengage. We've got it under control. And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, the woman you're following has been trying to lose you for 3 miles. And so she's meeting one of our officers at QT, and we'll do a sobriety check at that point. So I'm following because I'm assuming this person was drunk. And I don't know because I'm nobody, so they're not going to call me back and be like, hey, we checked it out. They are drunk. Yeah. So I don't know what happened. Yeah. She was drunk. I didn't know it was a she. I never got, but that person was drunk. I knew it was a she because the dispatch told me. But at some point, she called the cops on me because she's like, hey, this car's following me. Every time I try and lose him, he's still behind me. Yeah. And so I followed her for 3 miles, thinking I'm doing a service for the city, and being like, oh, this lady's drunk. Yep. Come get him. Yep. And they were like, disengage. They're calling on us now too. Yep. So what would be, you'd say, your craziest traffic call?
As far as accidents, or without getting too much into things. When I was pretty young. I don't know. I probably was 22, so I only had 2 years on or so, and we got a call for an accident. And it ended up coming out with an accident with injuries. And typically, at least within the city, they will kind of upgrade the accidents kind of by the call volume.
Upgrade meaning?
So you have code 4, code 3, code 2, and code 1 in the city.
And that's ascending? Code 1's the worst?
Yes, code 1 is the worst. And then you got your code 2 call, which is code 1 is you're going lights and sirens. Code 2 is you're going straight there without any detours. Code 3 is kind of one of those hey, we can get to this in a bit. And then a code 4 is just something you have to get to before the end of your shift. So it could be like an illegally parked car or something like that. But they had just upgraded this from a code 2 to a code 1. And I remember I was the second officer on scene. And when I pulled up, there was a semi. I'm trying to stay away from some of the details, but there was a semi on a major thoroughfare. And there was a car that was up underneath the back rear end of the semi. And it had kind of spun out to the side. So just the engine compartment was underneath the semi at this point. And when I came up to it, there was people all around. When I came up to it, there was a person sitting in the driver's seat, and they didn't have their head. So their head it was still partially attached, but it was kind of like leaning back pretty far. So that was probably and that was one of the more gruesome scenes that I've seen.
Yeah.
So that was one of those oh man, this was really rough. But I remember just all sorts of craziness with that scene. We had to, in that type of situation, when someone passes away on a traffic accident, we have to have a special unit come in, and they come in and they take the report and they do all this, and they will literally go in and measure specific marks in the roadway. So if there's a mark where they said skid, like a skid mark or something, they will measure those and kind of basically break it down to figure out what happened.
Because there's forensic, right? So they can determine how fast they're going when they put the brakes on.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So we have, in the department, we have ETU, evidence technician unit. They will kind of gather up stuff like gun shells and stuff like that. And then we have the, in that type of situation, we have the actual accident reconstruction, who will come out and measure all that out. And then the evidence technician unit will come in and take pictures of all of it and measure it and all of that as well. So
a pretty big jumping off point, because when I said craziest, I meant these guys were smoking a bong and they pulled over on the median.
Okay, like a traffic stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you went a totally different direction, which is fine. But I just always wonder, when you see stuff in the movie like Super Troopers and that kind of stuff, then it's like
a funny type thing.
Let me give you an example so we know where we're heading. Because this was the funniest traffic stop I've ever been stopped on. And I still got a ticket. But I was 19 years old. I'm driving in a school zone, and I wasn't doing something outrageous, but I was going 35 and a 25. And it was on McKelvey Road, actually, so Maryland Heights. And as I'm driving past the school, I look over, and I make dead eye contact with the police officer that's in his car, and he looks right at me, and he goes to pull out. So before he even pops the cherries on, when he pulls out, I just pull over. Because I know he's coming after me.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even bother turning the cherries on. He just pulls in behind me, and he walks up, and I'm looking at him. As he's walking up, he's laughing. And I roll my window down, and he goes, "I guess you know you're speeding." And I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to write you a ticket, but, be careful coming through here when you're doing that. There's kids here."
Yeah.
And he goes, "And you look like a kid yourself." But he still wrote me a ticket. But he laughed and was kind of just be careful. He didn't do anything extra. He wasn't being a jerk about it. But we both were kind of laughing at each other when he pulled up, because it was the middle of the day. I was dead sober. It wasn't anything. It was just, I looked at him, he looked at me, and I was like, ugh. And I just pulled over, and he was just laughing.
Yeah.
Comes up and gives me a ticket. So that kind of sucked.
So craziest, it's kind of crazy, kind of funny. I'm sure it wasn't for the people that we pulled over. See a car, he's swerving in and out of traffic. So we speed up to it, catch up to it, pull the car over. And as we're walking up, I can clearly see it. I can't really see what's going on in the back seat. The driver is just utterly ticked off. What are we doing? He's throwing his hands up and stuff like that. And we get up there, and I think I was on the passenger side. My partner's like, "Hey, I'm Officer such and such. I just wanted to talk to you. you were swerving in and out of traffic, you know, speeding and stuff like that. And he's like trying to shut him up. The driver is. He's like, no, like listen. And as I look down to see what's going on inside the vehicle, there's a lady laying down in the back seat, and I'm like, okay, there's something weird going on here, right? So I knew something was weird, so I started to open up the back door, and she just starts screaming, and I'm like, what is going on here? Start to realize what was going on. She was pregnant and having her kid.
Oh.
So I start like, okay, I'm switching off of officer mode. I'm trying to figure out like,
now.
hey, you know, they taught this in the academy. I can figure out how to deliver a baby. My partner's getting on the radio. He's like, hey, we pulled this car over. They're getting ready to have a kid. We need EMS. Luckily, there was a firehouse right around the corner. But I'm like preparing myself, like I'm gonna have to help give this baby, or we're gonna have to do something. Like
we're having a baby,
right? Because we were. Even by lights and sirens, we were probably still 10, 15 minutes out from the hospital.
Oh.
And she was much closer than that. And so I'm preparing myself. And about that time, there just happened to be an ambulance like right around the corner. And this EMS dude comes walking up and he's like, hey, man, he's like, I'm just here to help. I'm like, nope, you're in. Yeah. Tag him in. So that was my almost kind of giving a baby story. But that was pretty crazy. It was definitely a switch off from the normal traffic stop that we would usually do. So.
I would have panicked.
Yeah, I was a little bit, you know.
That's a lot of liability.
Oh yeah. I had no clue. I mean, I at the best I was gonna help, you know, guide the baby out, and then you know I was gonna catch a baby. But at that point, I didn't know what. So she was very thankful that EMS came because they were able to transfer her before she had the baby, and then she had the baby I think on the way to the hospital. So which ended up being fine. But
were you ever part of a really big drug bust?
Yeah, so it was kind of freaky. I was younger. I was partners with another guy, and we were kind of hitting this specific block pretty hard, taking out some known gang members and stuff like that. And we had made several good arrests throughout the month, really. And I remember I got a call from him one day, and he's like, hey, man, I think we've really, like, ruffled some feathers over there. And I was like, well, yeah. I said, we've arrested 3-4 guys. And he's like, no, like, seriously. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, we'll talk about it. So I got to work that day, and he's, like, telling me all this stuff. And he's like, well, so I have this buddy, and he's kind of gotten some wind that there might be some sort of plot. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, they're like, they know that there's some officers from our station that are kind of busting down on drugs in this block, and they're putting out a hit on us, basically. And I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. So it kind of just started spitballing from there. We got a hold of some of our people from our department, some of the drug guys and stuff like that, and some of the feds got involved. And it ended up turning into a pretty big thing. And I think when it came down to it, there was over 20 some arrests and stuff like that. It was pretty much, at this point, it was out of our hands at that point. Yeah. Like we were just along for the ride. Like, hey, you know, we're just watching. Like, yeah, we were the officers, but it was kind of crazy to see. And that was kind of the cool part too, was the seeing all of these different. Because I mean, once everything was said and done, the U.S. Marshals were involved. The DEA was involved. The Secret Service was involved. So a lot of people don't know this, but Secret Service ended up, like, they handle currency and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, there was counterfeit money found, so the Secret Service got called in and they handled some of that.
So it has nothing to do with state lines or anything else. If there's currency involved, that's a Secret Service thing?
Yep. So that would be Secret Service, and then Homeland Security was also involved.
If Homeland gets involved, is that trafficking?
Well, no, Homeland was really just involved because they were kind of tasked out with some of St. Louis's guys at that point. Okay. So they just kind of piggybacked off of it with their own investigation and stuff. But yeah, there was a lot of arrests came from that, and even on from there. So like they got information from all of those guys who were ditching on all these other guys and all these other gangs and stuff like that. So it ended up being a pretty big thing, all because we were just stupid young guys running out and thinking that we were hot
change
stuff.
the world.
Yeah. And we were actually going to get ourselves killed probably. But
In over your heads a little bit.
Yep.
What would you say to, kind of in closing for mine, but how do you typically close a show? Do you have anything you close with?
I kind of go through like towards the end, like where they're at now, and then like what they're doing, and then we kind of talk about their family life a little bit, like how the job relates to their family, kind of thing.
Well, where I'm at now is the same place I was, but we'll go with your closings to kind of stay on track with your show here. But work-life balance for me is pretty unique.
Yes.
Because I'm in a position where my sons, so prior to doing the production stuff, I've been in marketing for most of my life.
Okay.
Adult life anyway. I wasn't marketing as a kid. But my older son used to be in like commercials and print ads.
Yeah.
He'd come on the radio with me every once in a while.
That's really cool.
I remember something real funny when he was younger. The first time he was ever on radio, his game starts here. It started. He's playing Miami of Ohio tonight. So my older son plays for Ball State.
Good luck.
Thanks. And so by the time you watch this, you'll know the score. Yeah. So he got this outfit that he picked out. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I want to wear this outfit today for the radio. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Because he was little. He didn't realize that he wouldn't be seen. And then he got to do some pretty cool ads. He was in ads up through high school, some print ads and stuff. But my work-life balance has always been like, my kids do it with me. And so now my younger son, Tyson, will be doing stuff, and he's really eager to start his own show. He wants to do a fishing show. Yeah. And
that'd be cool.
Yeah. He fishing is life. He had the option to go to Disney World. I was like, hey, you want to go to Disney World this year? And he's like, I'd rather go deep sea fishing. I'm like, wait, are you serious? Like, because that saves me thousands of dollars. And it's something I would enjoy way more. Let's do it. And he's like, yeah, fishing is life. And I was like, all right, I guess we're going deep sea fishing. Easy enough for me. So it's a little bit different because I don't have to bring it home with me either, right? Yeah. I don't have to unsee some of the things you guys have to unsee. Yeah. What is I don't know if anybody's ever asked it back to you. What's your work-life balance now that you're out of it? Is it calmer? Do you still have things from the...
No, it's definitely calmer. I still have like feelings pop up, I guess. One of these scenarios that I can think of here recently, it's just anytime I see anything about a St. Louis area officer, being injured, it just instantly it starts bringing back feelings from that day or other instances. I was with the department for 5 years. There was other people that I saw get shot. Not that I personally saw, but I was, with the department. You feel that when you're with the department, especially that big, you feel every loss, you feel every tragedy that happens. So, it's definitely, it hits everyone. So,
yeah, we're actually on December 19th. This may interest you and your demographic. We're going to have a toy drive here. And a holiday party. Have you seen that on our posted? Yep. So Ann Dorn and the Captain David Dorn Foundation's putting it here at the club. Yes. Which is where we shoot from. And we'll be asking for new wrapped toys. Let me clarify. Not wrapped so we can't see what they are. Right. Just in the package. Right. Unless they're stuffed animals. Right. You don't have to saran wrap a stuffed animal. But we're asking for that for officers. Yeah. There was Officer Brown. And his children, and then there was another one I can't remember that we're going to collect toys for, and I apologize. I'll put the information on the show link because I'm sure that'll be a fun evening to help out some worthy families. Yeah, or stuff like that. That'd Luckily, be good. You never had to get to that point, so no. Thankful you're here. Yeah. Well, Colin, and one of the other things we should call out on the air here that Greg needs to do an episode.
Yes, Greg, you're coming on. Yeah. Doesn't have a choice at this point.
Well, because now you're going to look silly. If you don't come on, you're going to...
Yeah. Look like a sissy.
Pretty much. Yeah. I was going to say something different, but I'm glad you spoke in. But I was going to say what he said with different letters at the beginning of that. Thank you so much, Colin, for having me on, brother.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.